Hey everybody, welcome to our monthly live stream. My name is Bobby Moore. I'm here with Sweta and Krista. We're still waiting for Stella to get in here, but she'll be here shortly. And this is our monthly live stream for the Thought Leadership Brand Club, which is a membership community to help you grow your digital voice, your digital presence, and your thought leadership online, whether it's through content, through audio and live streams, or whether it's through your own branding and platforms on both LinkedIn and across the other platforms as well. So that's kind of what we help people with. And we have weekly meetings, we have monthly live streams, we have a weekly training on Thursdays at 4 p.m. that you're all invited to as well. And we have all our audio rooms that we do in a group coaching call. But today's topic is all about Women's History Month. And I brought together three amazing women. One's still coming, but the other two are here. And we're going to talk about how to inspire inclusion with belonging, relevance, and empowerment. I'm really excited to have the two of you here. We did this last year too with three women as well. I think Sweta was there last year too, right? Were you there last year?
Yes, we did it with Diana and Kamara. Yes,
that's right. So you're basically a two-timer. So let's start with you, and why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
Absolutely, I'm a career and personal branding strategist. So I basically teach do's and don'ts to the job seekers to land six-figure. Without having any large network or upgrading to expensive degrees or certifications, because why not, right? That's what I do.
I love that. And before we get to Krista, I also want to mention people that people are watching this all around the world. So this is multi-streaming on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Facebook, all those other places. So make sure you take a look where it is, but you put your comments and let us know. Put in the chat box where you're calling in from. So we saw that, Saroj here is calling from Nepal.
Hey, Saroj.
Saroj watching Nepal. That's amazing. There you go. So listen where you're from and then ask questions, comment with each other, engage each other. That'll be fantastic. All right. So let's go to Krista. Krista, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, everybody. Bobby, thank you. Sweta, nice to meet you. I'm excited to be here. So I'm Krista Mollion. I'm the founder of Unignorable Brands, which is a marketing agency. And I've been a marketer for 22 years, worked with some very iconic clients like Apple, Google, Facebook, HP. And about 7 years ago, I sold my agency, went out on my own. And since then, I've been specializing in helping small B2B companies grow their brands. And currently I'm working as a fractional CMO, where I go in and I help companies set up all their marketing, run their entire marketing basically from scratch. And I'm also the founder of From Zero to Six Academy, where for the people who don't want done for you services, but want done with you, they want courses, memberships, boot camps. That's what I do as well. In fact, I'm running a workshop in 2 days from now, Thursday, called the Buyer Psychology Masterclass. So if anyone is a business owner, a small B2B business owner, please connect with me. My main platform is LinkedIn. So that's where I'd love to get to know you better. But I'm also cool if you reach out on Facebook or wherever platform works for you. So thanks again, Bobby, for having me.
Awesome. Okay, great. Well, thanks so much for that. And let's get right into the topic. And hopefully Stella is having a little tech issues to get in here. And when she does, and if you see me looking down, I'm looking at my phone because I want to track what's going on and who's talking on the different platforms. That's what I'm doing. But I'm really
looking in. Like, okay,
but,
all right.
But I want to do less talking. I want you guys to do more talking. I mean, the only thing I will say to start off is that I'm a firm believer in allyship and empowering women, and when it comes to any sort of groups that are marginalized or oppressed, whether it's Black and brown people, indigenous people, women, LGBTQ, I'm there to try to support them as best I can and be the best I can. So that's why I like to do this type of session. So I actually kind of want to start with a really basic question, which is, when you think of Women's History Month and you think of International Women's Day, what does that really mean to you? And how or why is it significant for you? And I'll start with you, Krista, and we'll go to Sweta.
Yeah, so I think it's actually quite impressive when you just think what women have done in just the past 100 years. When I tell my daughters that, just just up until maybe 45 years ago, women had to ask their husbands to get credit cards in the United States. They couldn't have their own bank accounts. I mean, we just take these things for granted. So I am infinitively grateful for every privilege that we have. And these things just should be obvious. We should have full equality in every aspect of from the workplace to the society, but we don't. And so today I just want to celebrate women, and I particularly want to shout out the women in history who were courageous enough to not give up, because I can't even imagine what kind of pressure it was to get the right to vote and all of those things that women have done for us. So all the women listening, please, giving you a big hug, and all the men listening, go find a woman and give her a rose today.
Sweta, go ahead.
Yeah, do you wanna introduce Stella? She just joined.
Oh yeah, sure. So Stella, that's right. So Stella, thanks so much for coming in here. We already did introductions, and again, everyone who's watching, please put comments in the chat box. Let us know where you're from, what are your questions. Why don't you just say nice things about our panel, because they're amazing people for having been here. But everyone else did introductions. So Stella, please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry I'm late. I was having internet issues. I was running up and down. I've had to go to my friend's apartment to use Wi-Fi. So it's been a bit manic. So apologies, everyone. I'm Stella de Silva. I'm tuning in from beautiful Oman in the Middle East. And again, Bobby, thank you so much for having me on, and just looking forward to getting involved in all discussions.
Okay, great. Well, the question I had posed to Krista was, and I'll go to Sweta, and then Sweta, you can pass it on to Stella, which is, what does Women's History Month mean to you, International Women's Day, and what's the significance for you? So Sweta, go ahead, then pass on to Stella.
Yeah, sure. I mean, coming from the background where women are supposed to be just staying in the kitchen, I'm South Asian, born and raised. And I'm hearing echoes. I'm not sure. Can you hear echo?
Yeah, I think I hear the echo. I think it's from Stella. So Stella, you may want to mute while you're not speaking. Go ahead, Sweta.
All right, let's try. Oh, all right, great. That was a quick fix. Okay. I mean, I'm South Asian, born and raised in Nepal. So, I mean, I come from that background where women are told to just, your place is only in the kitchen, not in the boardroom, right? So, and I think I can totally speak up for those women. And I'm here today because I was really supported by, a lot of men in my life and a lot of women as well, including, I'm going to call it out what it is, right? I'm going to probably not be politically correct when I'm saying it. A lot of people like white women, white men, right? So I think I'm here today because they were allies. And I think women history, when we talk about it, I think we need those people in power who can make an impact, because still today, if they put my name in a room full of opportunities when I'm not there, I feel so confident. And I'd like to call out that if you feel like we're doing something really meaningful, please tell us, because that's so much like confidence. It's just generates so much of confidence. And that's what the women, I think women are celebrating all together. We're not going to be competitors between one another. We're going to be collaborator, because if women can empower one another, can you imagine? We'd never have to fight in gender gap, because we need to speak up for one another. And I'm truly lucky to have such a good community of coaches within LinkedIn, like people that I look up to. And these are all women. And most of them are like, people of color, plus the white women and Black women as well. So let's celebrate all of those people who are speaking up for us and showing up for us when we really need them to show up. Stella, go for it.
Already, I'm not sure if you can see me. I was doing the whole thumbs up and everything. Totally resonate with everything you just said, Sweta. And I think it's really important that, we celebrate women every single day. That's why I'm not really, as much as we have these single dates that, we put on in the calendar, that, Mother's Day, Father's Day, International Women's Day, and all these things. And it's the one day that all of a sudden people are just like trying to be recognized. And I'm thinking, well, hang on a second, I'm a woman, I'm a Black woman of, I'm a woman of color. Every single day, my life doesn't change for the better or for the worse on International Women's Day, right? So again, I'm very passionate about really ensuring that, we, especially women on LinkedIn, that, we have a platform, we have a say so, we do have a voice, and people are listening. But the only thing that we then need to do is be consistent, so we don't have to wait for that International Women's Day to put out this poignant post to really show exactly what we do as women, when we're doing it day in, day out, 365 days. So I think that is also really important, Bobby.
Thanks for that. And, again, I really want you guys to do all the talking. You can interrupt each other and you can just, talk with each other and go next. And I can be quiet and silent. But what I'll say is that, as an ally, I think that one of the things I'll say about allyship is it's not just doing that one post, on LinkedIn, or that one thing that you do. What are you doing to act and actually support women? So, for example, I'm doing a live stream and I wanted to bring awesome women in like you two and you three, and that's been great. I also try to make sure we had a diverse group of people for this live stream, because I think these things, I'm also really big on that too. I'm very important about diversity, is very important to me. So I guess the question I have then is, for those who are out there trying to be allies to women, do you have any suggestions or suggestions for them? And let's mix it up. Let's go to Sweta, and then you can hand it over to whoever you want. You're muted.
So you bring a lot of value, like nuggets right there, right? It's not about post. It's about putting our name in room full of opportunity when it's right to do so. I don't have to keep on saying, hey, show up for me. You show up for me different way. Sometimes it's paying in kind. Like, for example, if we're talking about LinkedIn, let's put it right there, right? If you tell me that I'm really doing good on my private messages, then why are you not telling me in public? And that's what the leaders do. Leaders coach in private, give constructive feedback in private DM, but leaders really clap. So that way, a lot of people out there can hear that clap, right? So we need women like that. Especially when we are a content creator, because all of us were a content creator. Don't tell me privately. If I'm advocating, for me, it happens a lot of time. I really touch very sensitive issues. I'm a person of color. I talk about immigrant issues. I talk about newcomers in Canada. I talk about biases and discriminations. Sometimes I do ruffle some feathers. And same people would come to my private messages and say, wow, you did amazing. I felt that. Good girl, good woman, let's do this, right? But it's so hard for me to call it out and say, if you really liked it, why didn't you comment? Why didn't you show up on my feed? And I think this is where the areas of opportunity comes in for an ally. Practice what you preach. And I'll stay with that. Krista, what do you think?
I so agree with that. And I think that once women understand that we can only rise together, things will be better, because sometimes I feel that it's lonely to be a woman. There's just a different dynamic between women than between men. And for example, I have 4 children, and throughout raising my children, I've always worked. And there wasn't a lot of support for moms who worked, where the moms who stayed home had a lot of things going on and they intermingled. And the moms who worked, there wasn't enough things that we could do together, or enough support in general. And so I felt like I was fighting a double battle. And I didn't maybe do enough. The only thing I did proactively was I decided to join my child's parent-teacher association as their head of marketing and communications, so a volunteer position. And the other thing I did was to mentor women who were up and coming in marketing. So I created a group, and once a week we had a call, and we had in-person meetings once a month. And I was just mentoring these women to try to help them because they were just starting out their marketing career. But I come from Silicon Valley, and it's a very hostile environment. So a lot of women are afraid to speak up. They're afraid that if they show their needs or they advocate for what they do need, that they will be passed by for promotion or even fired. Some women are like, no, I have to be just as tough as the man, because otherwise, you know, my employer will figure it out. And I remember one time that I saw a woman crying in a bathroom stall at a company that I was working in. And that was just such a terrible moment for me, where I was like, this can't go on. And she said, I'm just terrified because my daughter has a fever. She's home with my mother-in-law, 40 minutes drive from here. I can't concentrate on my work. My daughter's sick. And I said, why don't you just go to your boss and ask for time off? And she was like, no, because I have this contract. It's an hourly thing. I can't take off. And that really, for me, was just a shocker, because I'm thinking, what kind of a environment are we working in, especially as a marketer, where these big companies on their websites, they all talk about diversity friendly, equal employers, you know, and in the reality, we've got women crying in the bathroom stall because she's a new mom who has like a 6-week-old baby, a 40-minute drive from her, who has a high fever and should be at home with her baby. So, and the worst part of it was her boss was a female. And what I did was I took her and I went to see her boss. And I said, she needs to go home. I don't know what is going on, like work-wise today, but she needs to go home. And she felt more confident because I went with her to talk to her boss. But what kind of world are we living in? And this was not that long ago. Okay. This wasn't like, 40 years ago or something. This was in the past 10 years. This happened in real time. So what does that tell us here? We're talking about women. This is we're talking about USA. We're not talking about Nepal. We're not talking about Nigeria. We're talking about most liberal place in USA. I mean, California is very, very liberal place. And this kind of things are still happening today. This is why I became an entrepreneur, so I could raise my family, because I didn't want to ask for taking a day off. And I was told that I couldn't. And I said, I'm not going to make a career. I'm not going to make a life where I can't be there for my kids whenever I want to, guilt-free. So not only this, but it has to be guilt-free. You don't have to come back and feel like now I'm going to be passed by for a promotion. My boss doesn't think I'm reliable or anymore. We women can do so much, but we have to do it on our terms. And this means flexibility. This means no censorship and no feeling guilty about having better priorities, like taking care of our parents, taking care of our children, just being more flexible. That's not a weakness. That's a superpower, because I was able to raise those 4 kids. One of them's here with me, and I'm not going to apologize for that. Because if an employer or a client doesn't see that as a superpower and doesn't understand the value of what we women can bring, then there's a problem in the society. There's no problem here.
As you can see, I had my clappers on when both of you were talking, right? Thankfully, it was on mute, but I was going, because everything you are saying, both of you, is absolutely right. And what I loved about what Bobby said is, has an ally. And I think it starts from that as well, because again, we're talking about women, but we also need to include men in all of this. And that's why I love the fact that, Bobby, when you approached us to do this, it was a case of, oh my God, there is an ally here, okay? And most importantly with this, Bobby, another reason why I said yes, because I don't say yes to everyone for various reasons. But the main reason I said yes is because with you and this panel, I can see inclusivity, I can see diversity, right? So everybody in the audience will be one of us is going to be relatable to one of us. That's the way I see it. And again, on LinkedIn, I see it all the time where people will come, both men and women, who will say, oh, I'm doing a podcast, I'm inviting this, that, and the other, I'm doing a conference, we have X amount of speakers. And I've looked at the list and I'm thinking, well, who's representing me? Who is representing me in these things? Sweta is thinking, oh, she needs a clapper right now, right? But that's how I feel. And every single time, I'm doing a podcast or I'm a guest, these are the kind of things that I'm thinking about as a woman. Because again, I am trying to put myself in other women's shoes. I did a post yesterday. I've just set up a business center here in Oman, and I put up a post about it, right? And a lot of the comments they were using the word inspirational. And again, as lovely as that word is, it's quite overwhelming. It's quite intimidating, because then as a woman, I'm thinking, well, what is so special about a woman of color setting up a business? Really, what is so special about that? And these are the kind of things that we need to be aware of. And especially, again, we are linked, we all are LinkedIn connections, friends. And again, a lot of our content is on LinkedIn. But I think these are the kind of things that we really need to think about in terms of who our audience is. Are we diverse enough when we're talking to our audience, or are we just concentrating on a particular niche? Because then again, you lose people. And again, Krista, with what you're saying, it happens everywhere, the world over. I've worked in many, many countries. And again, when you are a woman, you're fighting some sort of misogyny, you're fighting, in my case, some sort of racism, you're fighting, in my case, now the age I'm at, ageism. So I'm constantly feeling that I'm having to prove myself time and time and time again. And guess what, guys? It becomes very, very tiring. It becomes very, very draining, where you just say, at what point do I just give in? But we don't. Here we are again in 2024, literally having to find allies, literally having to come to defend ourselves and our actions and everything that we are trying to do in terms of having a voice. We shouldn't be having these type of discussions in this time and age, is my personal opinion here. Back to you, Bobby, if you've got anything else for us.
Yeah, well, I wanted to mention something you said, Stella, which is the idea of, you watch it. Is there diversity on the panel? Is there people are the people that represent me? And what I can tell you is that I've been on the DEI diversity kind of fix for probably about 10 years now, and it's hard. It's hard to find a panel and find people when I want to get that mix of different types of people. So the question then becomes, well, okay, do I okay, I've got two people, but I don't have this representation. Do I cancel? Do I wait? And I worked hard, guys. I'm going to wait. I really want to have the right people, but sometimes it is hard. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's hard because a lot of people, particularly on the diversity scale, are not out there. They're not stepping up. And so I think it's really important for us to empower more diverse people. I mean, first off, empower more women to speak up and share. And the three of you are fantastic. I mean, Sweta is this fantastic LinkedIn influencer, and Krista and Stella are LinkedIn top voices. You three are phenomenal. But there's a lot of women out there that aren't stepping up and maybe need encouragement. So I want to go back to you, Stella, to maybe talk to this in terms of, because it is hard for me sometimes to find people, speakers for events, whether it's live or in person or whatever it might be. Like I'm running a LinkedIn Local Toronto in April, and finding the right, I found a white guy. Yeah, that was pretty easy. They're a dime a dozen. Finding diverse women, it was hard for me. I found one, but I was like, okay, now I got to find a second one because I really want to, because it's me there too, right? I want to find a second woman because I'm pushing for it, and that's where the work comes. But what would you do to encourage women and diverse women out there to really speak up and be seen more and put themselves out there for these things so that people can find them and give them these opportunities?
Again, brilliant question, but it's almost like I want to revert a question back to you, Bobby, in terms of, what is it you're doing to encourage in terms through, in terms of the content you are putting out? People, especially on LinkedIn, or as I shouldn't even just say as on LinkedIn, as content creators, people buy into people buy into experiences, people buy into personal stories, right? And we all, I don't care who you are, we all have a story to tell. And again, before anybody sort of like starts like, oh my gosh, I'm not telling my personal or my private business on social media. That's not what I'm saying, because there is obviously a difference. And I always say this, there is a difference between personal and private, especially if you are a voice on social media. But in terms of what I do is, again, it's all, you know, try something different. If something hasn't worked today in the way you are putting out your message, try something else, because that is what is going to drive people into your network. And that's why I'm pretty sure I can speak for all of us here. That's why we have a varied network, because at some point, somebody has resonated with what it is you've had to say. That's why they press that follow button. That's why they press that connect button, right? And I know Bobby and I know Krista for sure, because also I know Krista from Facebook and Bobby on Facebook. Your personal stories really often resonate. And for the most part, even on LinkedIn, it is the personal stories that tends to get more engagement than what it is you're selling as a service or what it is you're selling as a product. That's what usually happens. So again, are you being inclusive with your content is my question. And there are various ways of testing it out, because again, as Sweta mentioned, we've got things that we can talk about because we've got those experiences being, coming from, in my case, I'm half French, my mom is white French, my dad is black Nigerian. I've got a story to tell. I can actually tap into two different sets of cultures. The black culture I'm very well aware of. The white culture I'm very well aware of. Now, how do I align it? How do I align myself so I bring the two together and one isn't greater than the other? That's always what I'm thinking about when I'm putting content out. Am I putting content out that men can see my point of view as a woman? Because I'm not there to emasculate points of view from a man's perspective. I'm thinking of that when I'm putting content out. So that's why then I now know that when I'm looking at people who are engaging on my post, I haven't got just black women. I haven't got just, white women, black men, white women, or whatever color you're identifying yourself. I've got a variety of people, different genders, different sexual orientations, because I know how to communicate with each person. And again, when we're talking about communication, I'm not talking about, going into a masterclass of communicating. Communication for me is when you just have respect. When you talk with someone with respect, no matter who they are, trust me, they will engage you. So these are the kind of things that I'm always thinking about, Bobby, in terms of, the question you've asked. We ourselves, we have to take ownership. We're very quick to sort of like say, oh, it's somebody's fault or this, that, and the other, without self-reflecting sometimes. And I think that once we can carry a bit of accountability on what our actions are, especially on social media, and especially when we think we have a responsibility to, as different people in society, then I think we need to hold ourselves accountable. I don't know what Sweta thinks about that.
Absolutely. And I think it is all about content. Let me bring one example that happened, I think, last year. I don't use the word white in my post because I'm going to probably offend a lot of white people out there, right? On purpose, I don't do it. Although I was laid off because of white bosses, although I quit because of 3 white women right there, right? So toxic. I don't actually say it out because not all white are that bad. There's such a good ally out there. I am here because I had so much white mentors. I'll tell you one example. When I talk about how my white bosses helped me out, fine, people showed up and everything. When I talked about how white bosses treated me, slamming. Why are you calling out white? Like, there's no white privilege. There's no, like, don't invalidate our lived experience. I'm a people of color. I'm telling you what happened to me. You have no right to come in on my feed and say, well, that probably didn't happen. Maybe you looked at it a different way. Why are you calling it out, right? So sometimes we have to use the languages to call not people out, the race out. It's the behavior that's happening. And I felt it that way, right? And I think this is where you got to support people like us who is immigrant in a new country. We went through so many hoops. There's a biases, discriminations. When you want to get the job, you're overlooked with the people who are born here in Canada or States, right? When you want to get the promotions, you're overlooked. I have an accent. English is not my first language. I have felt that insecurity all my life. Don't come to me about maybe it's your English, maybe it's your accent you're not getting promoted for, right? Like, what about all the things that I've done, right? So I think support us, give us that confidence, just like Krista did, right? Someone who could not speak up for herself, she went and then actually drove that. Be that person. Give us that voice, because you know what that does to us is like, oh my God, I have my confidence back. I still do. Put us on a tag. Do you think like I don't look at the tag? When you're putting a tag, who is the best coaches out there, career coaches out there, who's a top voice out there, right? I'm looking at your tag, all those people out there. I'm not looking my name in there. I'm looking at, are you tagging people of color right there? If white people are just tagging white people, I'm going to totally judge you. If Black people are just tagging Black people, I'm going to totally judge you, right? I need to see people like me, even in top voices. You know, I was so happy that some brown voices got recognized this year. I was like, I see me in there. I see my daughter in there, right? So look at the tag. Who are you tagging? I don't care if you don't invite me on your speaking series or webinars or podcasts. I really don't care. But I need people like me, just like the way that Stella said. I'm looking for people like me, my voice, because it gives me the confidence, and that's how you become an ally. And I rest my case.
Krista, your thoughts?
I love what both of you have shared, and I wanted to say that I think we need to be role modeling for other women, more about self-confidence. Because I have been coaching women for the past 6 years now. And unfortunately, I have had the experience that most of them give up. So in the end, I'm left with only men clients. And if you look in, it was never my intention. In fact, when I first started, j'ai une réunion. When I first started, I was only trying to work with women. My whole brand was just women focused. I wanted only to coach women. And it wasn't possible because women would cry. They would second guess themselves. They would say, oh, I'm not good enough for that. And I would spend every single week not working with them to do what they needed to do in their business, but trying to convince them that they were good enough. Now there's something really wrong here. With the men, I never had that problem. We got down to work, and that's why the men got results. The women, I was like trying to convince them. I was like, what can I do to convince you that you're good enough? You're worthy of this. And so what that shows me is that there's a big problem out there with self-confidence. And it could be about anything. It could be about the color of your skin, your weight, your physical beauty, your accent. Lots of people were like, I can't do video. My English I have an accent. I'm like, look, all these excuses are here in your head. You are your own worst enemy. But how do you convince this to a person? There's no way that you can just keep telling them. So what I think is, first of all, we need to hear it from everybody. We need people to keep giving you good praise. So think about, if you have women around you working with women, just give them a shout out and say, I listened to this live stream and I really liked how you spoke. You spoke very well. And it was very interesting. You're a great speaker. Be genuine, of course, but try to find opportunities more just to tell women, because the more we hear it, the more we will eventually believe it. So that's important. The other thing is we need to mentor more women in general. Like right now I have on my profile the hiring symbol. So specifically, I'm hiring an intern right now, a marketing intern, but I have several posts that I'm recruiting for that aren't on my personal profile. And I'm specifically trying to hire women from West Africa, from Philippines, from India, because those are the women that probably need my mentoring more than the women in United States. And so, working with me, they're going to be able to rise up. They're going to be able to get that self-confidence and via mentorship. So think about those things. Compliment women more. Look for opportunities to hire other women and mentor other women. And then what you mentioned, Sweta, was, being on podcasts or being in these lists and stuff, it does make a difference. We need to think like, how can I make an active effort like Bobby has done to go out and find diverse guests and figure out how can I give those women a stage and be more active in that. It really does pain me when I'm in a room and I see that they're shouting out all these men. They're like, these men have done all these incredible things. And there's no offense, because of course I love men too, but I'm always looking like, where's the diversity here? So we do need to make a lot more effort. And yeah, it will take more work. It's not as easy, right, Bobby? I mean, if you look for a white male speaker, you'll have everything booked in one day. But it's so worth it, because here's the thing. The way you show up represents your values and your culture. And so you have to really think about, what does it mean to be a true leader? What I described of the woman crying in the stall, afraid to talk to her female boss about going home to be with her sick newborn. There's something wrong. So I think when we talk about being a leader, we have to remember that we're working with humans. These are human beings. They have families, they have lives, you can hurt their feelings. So what I've come to realize after working with teams for many, many years, I think true leadership is when they shine, I shine. So that's my philosophy with everyone. So I'm like, if you're not having fun, if you don't love what you're doing, we have to fix that. It means that maybe you're in the wrong job role. Maybe because everyone has talents, and everyone should be able to find employment in that zone of genius and have fun. And that's what makes a great company. Because if people show up to work and they like being at work, whether it's remote or in person, but they enjoy the people they're with, they're having fun doing something they really are passionate about, your company can't help but win. But if you have employees crying in the bathroom stall, your company is going down.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. You know how Bobby, you asked, like, what do you want? Like, what do you want? What do you want as a woman? How can we support you, right? And Stella had a really good point saying that, ask yourself. And I wanted to hold all of us accountable at this point, which I've been preaching it. Whenever someone is inviting me in a panel, including Bobby, you can answer that as well, right? Anyone who invites me, I always go, do you have a guest list? And there's a reason I ask all the time, do I fit in? Is there enough diversity, DEI, right? And I would ask, like, have you considered adding someone, or like, I don't resonate with that topic or whatever, right? I think as a speaker, I'm a speaker as well. I've been invited to a lot of speaking events, and first thing first is like, who else is coming? Can I resonate? And I definitely want to see the diversity. And I've said, no, as a speaker, we need to hold ourselves accountable and be willing to walk away, whether it's paid or not, if you don't feel like they're promoting diversity. They can preach all about it, but when inviting guests, we are equally accountable. I'm going to hold speaker accountable, male panel. I've done that. I've ruffled those feathers within my own community. I see tags, I see pictures like, you didn't get any women? Hello, it's not me. I don't want to be there. There are women. I'm going to tag. How about that, right? And when women are invited, especially in our community, I've been known for it, to call it out. They're invited to serve coffee, event management, coordinator, emceeing it. They're never invited for a keynote speaker, right? And I call that out. And I say, do you not we have a community. You have to have a list of women who can do well, who should be invited as a keynote speaker, not just be pretty and serve you as, hey, let me introduce you to the speaker, keynote speaker. Enough of these, right? We need to be invited as a keynote speaker, not only men, and that should be people of color as well. And speakers should be telling them as well, I'm not going to come in because I don't see the diversity. Add people in the list. We should be doing that as a speaker.
I love that. This discussion went really well, guys. Thanks so much for this. And again, everyone in the audience, make sure you're commenting and sharing your knowledge, asking questions, because we want to actually see you here. We have seen people saying here's Chitra saying, great speech, Sweta, man, that's good job. So people are loving you, which is great. I want to actually go back to a question that kind of came up from what I heard from you. So if there's an event for a panel and they ask you, and you find out that the panel has, 4 men, and you'll be the one woman that's there. I mean, so how do you balance, and this might be a tough question, but how do you balance the feeling, well, maybe I need to go there and speak up and give them hell, right? Versus not speaking, and well, then it's just they're going to find some other dude. So I'm just curious about anyone's thoughts on that.
I have I've had those kinds of situations, and a bit like Sweta, I've called it out sometimes, but then as a woman of color, and I've heard it and I've had it said to me, why are you so angry when I've just called you out? I haven't shouted, I haven't been aggressive, I haven't sworn at you, I've just called you out. But all of a sudden, I am this angry Black woman. And again, there's certain words that people use so loosely that can be very triggering, especially for a woman of color, right? So things like, you're asking for something, all of a sudden, words like demanding comes up, words like aggressive comes up. So again, I'm very, very conscious, and I do call people out, because again, I'm just like, where in my tone have you heard any aggressiveness coming out just because I'm calling you out on something? And the fact that I'm, I'm not shouting or I'm not being aggressive doesn't mean that I'm not angry. And I think a lot of people need to recognize that. Now, in a situation where there've been an all-male panel for some time, in some instances, again, like Sweta, I will find out exactly what is the agenda behind this. Why is it just a panel, more men, and maybe me has just the woman? And sometimes, Bobby, I'll be really, really honest with you. I get to that point of, do I feel like fighting today? Do I honestly, have I got it in me to come and really do the, that's it, I'm the strong woman, I'm assertive, I say what I think, this, that, the other? Or do I just say, you know what? I'm not fighting this battle today. I just haven't got it in me for whatever reason. And I think that also comes into play because, as I've said earlier on, it can be very, very tiring. It can be very emotionally draining, especially when it's on a constant. Especially when it's on a constant that I have to prove myself. People go onto my LinkedIn, they see the blue badge, they see the number of followers, and some people they act shocked and surprised, like I'm not supposed to be where I am because of what I'm doing on LinkedIn, for example. And again, it's like, all of a sudden you kind of credible. I've lost count how many people, when I first came on LinkedIn, and I was saying this, I was having this very same discussion. I've lost count how many doors I went knocking on when I first came on LinkedIn. And I knocked and I knocked and I knocked. And when I tell you, ghosting is not even a word that I can use. They blanked me, point back, blank, no, thank you, door slam. And all of a sudden, a little LinkedIn blue badge, right? The number of your following, they kind of now see your network and the people you are associated with or working with. And all of a sudden, these same very people, and I have to say this, Bobby, mostly men, all of a sudden are now coming knocking on my door and wanting coffee and wanting to meet up for a chat. And then again, I have to think, what is your agenda? What was wrong with me before I had what you think was what is going to make me credible, and where you didn't value me initially to what I have now, or what it is I'm doing now, that all of a sudden you want to have a chat with me, or you want me on your podcast, or you want me this, that, and the other. Because there's some mostly men who I would have loved to have been on their podcast a couple of years ago, who now want me on their podcast, and I've just said, no, thank you. We just don't align. And again, it's not with malice. I wish them luck. I still support them. But again, as Sweta said, if we just don't align on certain things and our core values, then why do you want me there? Other than maybe you just want that token Black woman there. I don't know what your agenda is. And because again, DEI is a word that is being branded around. It's kind of the sexy talk at the moment. Everybody is trying to be inclusive. I really do ask, do you really understand what inclusivity or diversity, do you really understand what it means? And if you don't, then you're doing a disservice to those people in these groups. So those are my thoughts on that.
Krista, what are your thoughts? And I know we're getting to the end of the time, so I want to make sure if you guys can stick around a little bit longer, we can finish this conversation. But Krista, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so you guys inspire me. So I just wanted to say, ladies and gentlemen here inspire me. And I'm very proud to know you. And I feel blessed to be as part of this conversation. And you have inspired me to reflect after this call how I can do better. Because ultimately, all we can do is take responsibility. We can't point fingers. We can't victimize ourselves. I don't want to be an angry white woman either, or a Karen, as we call them in the States, okay? I feel like we don't know each other. Like when you look at the surface, we make assumptions about one another. And if you just would take a little moment to understand, you would find that there's a lot more facades behind the stereotypes, And so that's the world I want to live in. That's the world I want my kids to live in, is one where we're thinking, how can I do better? Because if everyone here listening or who will watch the replay would just ask themselves that one question. I'm not talking about being judgmental, like I'm racist or I'm not doing enough, or I've invited 3 men to my panel and now, Stella's going to get me about it. That's not what we need to be doing. We need to just look in the mirror and say, let me think about the ways that aren't going to cost me much, but that are going to have such an impact to show the world what my personal brand stands for, or what my business stands for, and really make that a point. I actually quit a client because she was underpaying someone from a third world country. And this had nothing to do with me. My salary, my compensation was fine. I just didn't like that kind of a politics. And I said, I don't want to be involved in a company where the values are not aligned with my values. So I think that's another thing when I say, what can we do better? Being a passive bystander and watching women get passed over, watching color play a role, and be more aware and notice these things, and know that by not doing anything about it, you actually are passively agreeing to it. So that's why I pay people fairly. I try to pay people better than most because I really want to walk the talk. I don't want to be a greedy person taking advantage of globalization, of course, within my means, right? But that's what I mean by what can we do better? So I'll leave that up to everyone listening. And hopefully we can make this world a much better place. I really believe that we can if we do think what we can do.
Sweta, your thoughts.
Yeah, and I think I really appreciate you, telling us that you're going to self-reflect. And I have self-reflected as a woman in leadership back in the corporate world. I've done a lot of damages, sometimes unconsciously, and I don't want to blame anybody. My actions were something that I'm not proud about it, and I didn't even know that was a bias as discrimination in my own head. I mean, I was a mother. I have 2 kids. I went to Winnemount leave for 1 year. That's what we have in Canada. And I had a support system. My parents, they were watching my kids. And, I was privileged enough that I had a support. But did I support new mother in my own team? Probably not, right? Because I expected they should get the support. I expected they show up on a time. I could have done better. I could have spoken. I could have had the program in place, the flexible schedules, right? I could have done so much, right? And there's so many things as a manager or leaders, if you're watching right now, I want you to really self-reflect on it and think about your action, because do the bias check. You will have a biases. You cannot prevent it ever. You got to continuously develop that biases like in your mind and think about it. Okay, well, can I prevent it? Right? Ask questions, give the support, talk about it. And I think I should have done so much better when I was in the power to do that, but I couldn't do it all. Right? So I want you to reflect if you're a leader and manager and say what you can fix it right now, instant fix. Talk to your team, talk to your senior manager, talk to HR, make that happen for a new mother. Or when we talk about DEI, it's not only about race anymore. It's about disability, invisible disability, visible disability, right? LGBTQ, DEIB has so much impact right now. It's not only DEIB anymore. There's so much women, gender gap, pay gap. There's so much. I want you to reflect on each and every coaching sessions as a leader. And I'm committed to do that with my clients as well, right? I have biases sometimes for newcomers to Canada. I'm just thinking, oh, stop being a victim. My clients have landed 6-figure in 6 sessions. I'm comparing them. I should not be doing that. Everyone learns differently, right? I have my bias as a coach as well. So I'm working on it too. So we all have it. It's just a matter of how we're going to go and fix it and move forward, not backward.
I just want to add
Again,
one last thing. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Bobby.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just literally going to point out on what Krista said earlier on about even doing work with people in Africa, for example. I can't say I know the whole of Africa, but I'm half Nigerian. I've lived in Nigeria. My formative years were in Nigeria. And Sweta was talking about leaders. And again, I'm calling out certain leaders in Nigeria, in corporate, in government, in institutions, where people like me are bypassed for white people to come and deliver training in Nigeria. And I'm sitting there going, well, hello, I speak one of the Nigerian languages fluently. I can deliver. I've got probably more qualifications academically, professionally. And there was a particular instance that happened where, there was a training event going on, and I was literally bypassed for a counterpart, a white counterpart in Nigeria. And again, this is what we're talking about, because here I am yet again having to prove myself to my own people that I'm credible. I know what I'm doing. I know I can deliver this, that, and the other. And what was even probably more infuriating for me, really, I must say this, was that this counterpart happened to be a man. So it just felt it was like added salt to injury at the time, which I took so personally, because I thought, well, hang on a second, why is this happening? So again, these are the kind of things that, as much as we are trying to take ownership and trying to reflect and trying really, really hard to be open and to be accepting of people we're working with, well, then it has to be reciprocated in the workforce. It has to be reciprocated at leadership level, at high level. I work here in Oman. It's a Middle Eastern country. I work again with a diverse group that, I'm in a Muslim country. I'm having to adapt to, the culture and the behaviors in a Muslim country. And that is the only way I can succeed here. And again, thankfully, I am in a country where for women, they've got as much right as they have their male counterparts, which isn't the case in most of the Middle Eastern countries. So again, these are the kind of things that we're always constantly looking for. And again, like you said, Sweta and Krista, it's so important that we just continue to have this voice, because there's so many, women in Africa, a lot of them don't have that voice. They just do not have that voice. So I welcome any voice who can talk on behalf of any woman anywhere in the world. Come for it. And that includes allies like Bobby coming in and saying, you know what, you're giving us that platform. Say what you need to say. We're opening it up for you. We appreciate it. And I, for one, don't take people like you, Bobby, for granted. I really don't, because there's so many men on LinkedIn that can do a lot more for women, generally speaking.
Can I add something?
Yeah, go ahead.
So Bobby, I still remember one of the interactions I have. It would stay for me ever, because I was into the speaking gig and I was starting to get approached by the B2B partner, and they were asking me to quote. And I was like, okay, well, I'm getting the biggest brand here. I just want to see if I'm not, if I'm paid fairly. And I reached out to a couple of women, and Bobby as well, right? Like, what do you think, And he's like, let's hop on the call, right? And he gave me, okay, this is how much I charge usually. You're perfect. You're great. You're doing more. Like, he just like motivated me so much. He didn't have to share his rate. And the other one out there, I like to call it a Diana, Lisa. And there's the mastermind group that we've created, coaches amongst us. Whenever there's speaking gig happening, we are so transparent, right? People that we share how much we are charging for that. Is it low? Is it high? Right? So that nobody talks about that. So we need to actually share our prices as a consultant or a speaker. And I felt so good about it. Okay, well, I'm not being underpaid. I'm good, right? And they're giving you the golden nuggets, and we need ally like that. Do not post about Women's Day. Do not post about DIB. This is the practice that you're gonna have to follow, right? If somebody is asking you, give them a rate. You don't have to announce it publicly, that's fine, but go above and beyond, just like Bobby did as a man, right? He didn't have to, just like the other women I look up to, and they look up to me. It's like, hey, this organization approached me. How much do you think? And I'm like, okay, this is what I charge, right? So again, yes, go out there and help the women out. And then this is what the DIB is, being transparent about it.
So I just want to add one last thing, because I know we're over time here, and I want to thank everyone for being here. First is, you spoke a lot to the women out there. I want to speak to the men, because aside from being somebody who looks to empower women and create inclusivity with panels and events, I think the most important thing that allies can do is call out other men. So as a man, I need to call out other men when they're doing things that are terrible or horrible or marginalizing or non-inclusive and things like that. I think that's an important message that I want to make sure as an ally. That's one of the biggest things I do. I do a lot on Twitter. Sometimes on LinkedIn, it shows up people making disparaging comments, and I definitely will tell them. In fact, in the TLB club, we've had that issues, and what happens is, as a club, we'll mention it, and I go and I start commenting on these people and calling them out and telling them to stop their nonsense. And that's it's a big part of what we do in the TLB club. And again, TLB Club, Thought Leaders Brand Club, is hosting this event. We do a monthly live stream every month, usually the third week of Tuesday or Wednesdays. And next month we're going to cover mental health and physical health. So mental and physical well-being we're going to we're going to cover that with 3 awesome speakers. And make sure you follow Sweta, Stella, and Krista as well, because they're doing some really great stuff. You can also comment on these posts later on, ask questions. Thanks everyone for the people who actually shown up as well and shared their comments. And we host a weekly Zoom call with a trainer every single week on Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern. You're more than welcome to come by. This week it's going to be how to become the top 1% communicator in the industry, featuring Brendan Kumarasamy, who's going to be sharing his knowledge, which is going to be awesome. As we close, I want to ask each of you to maybe share something that you're working on or how we can follow you and support you in your work. So let's go with Sweta. Why don't you start, and then we'll go with Stella, and then Krista.
Absolutely. I'm working on my group mentorship program, where I wanted to have a community of career professionals where they feel there's a sense of belonging. I'm working on that launch, possibly happening around end of April. Stay tuned and subscribe to my Career Challenge newsletter. I send it out twice a month. It's in my profile as well. And if you wanted to be part of my free workshop, anything like that, free events, replay, exclusively just available for you, careerchallengeteachingdo.com. And then go ahead and subscribe, and you will get all the nuggets, what's happening with me, what's coming up in the pipeline, who are the guests who are invited in my podcast and stuff like that. Also subscribe to my YouTube channel under Teaching Do, where I tend to bring amazing guests. They're going to give you golden nuggets that you're not going to hear it somewhere else. That's it.
I'm thinking, where's the subscribe button, Sweta? I'm going for it. So with me, I'm just all over the place at the moment. So currently I'm doing a day job. I've set up my own business. So, I mean, ideally, I share a lot of tips on employability skills on LinkedIn. I welcome people engaging on a Sunday. I normally do a fun day Sunday where, again, my community, my network, we come in and, just have a laugh on a Sunday, because for most part, even though here in Oman, Sunday is the start of our working day, I know that in other parts of the world, Sunday is still very much of their weekend. So it's Sunday fun day. And as I said, feel free, if you've got any issues to do with employability skills where I can help with CVs, prepping for interviews, then I'm your girl, basically. So reach out. Krista, over to you.
Hey, so I am on a mission to make entrepreneurship accessible to all people, male, female, whatever you want to identify as. I don't care. I feel strongly that this has enabled me to live the lifestyle I wanted to live, and taken away all the traditional constraints and the office politics and all the misery that some people feel is part of the workplace, which shouldn't be. But entrepreneurship has made that all possible for me. And the beauty about entrepreneurship is it takes away social class, it takes away race and color, it takes away also geographical locations and boundaries. Really, that's my mission. My mission is to make it accessible to everyone. And because I understand that the economy, different people have different means of being able to pay for help and get help, I created From Zero to Six Academy, which is literally what it sounds like. Meaning if you have $0 all the way up to 6-figure, I've got an array of free and paid services in there. So I really wanted to create a ladder to bridge that gap where people who can't afford my high ticket monthly coaching or my high ticket mentorship programs could still get the help they needed. And then I kept going, and I also have services for done for you. So if you want all your marketing done for you, you can come see me at Unignorable Brands Agency. So I really just want to make it possible for people everywhere to monetize and thrive with the business that you love, working the hours you want to work, working with the people that light you up. Because when I do this, I know that I'm helping good people help other good people. So that's my way of leaving a legacy. So I hope everyone will reach out to me on LinkedIn. and find out more. And follow me on LinkedIn. That's the portal for you to find more out about me. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Bobby. It's been amazing. And I'm definitely going to support you two ladies here more.
I love it. Thanks so much, everybody. And just a final thought from me, you know, if you want to land a TEDx talk and tell your story and put it on stage and elevate your brand, your thought leadership, that's what I do. I'm running I run multiple programs, but the one I'm running right now is called TEDx Mastery Intensive. It started last week, but it's actually continuing and 6 months long. You're more than welcome to check it out. And you can always check the replay of this event and share it on LinkedIn and Twitter and all other places. Retweet it, replay it everywhere you want. So that's fine. Thanks to our amazing speakers, and continue to be allies, continue to advocate, empower, and include women. I want to thank our guests. It's been really amazing. So long, everybody. Have yourself a wonderful week, and we'll see you soon.